live with you. Yeah, live and direct. That is the term that I should use on it. And we have had an exciting week, very eventful week. The rains are here, na mnajua mvua ikikuja maneno ya tires zinapelekana hivi. But before we talk about tires, because today's show is all about tires, I would like to start by maybe discussing about the events of the week. Yesterday, we saw people get mugged, and this time they were not mugged while they are walking, they were mugged in their cars. So, what do you think should be a security measure that you should take in case such a thing happens? What should you have in your car? Unajua kitambo tulikuwa tunaona wazae wakibeba rungu kwa gari na hatukuwa tunajua ni ya nini, or what it was meant to serve. But at least yesterday we saw something that would make us reconsider what we normally have inside the car for protection. Number two, these next week kuna WRC. The WRC is here, and it's one of the most exciting events in the motorsport calendar. Kenya is the third leg of the WRC. So ilianza Monte Carlo, ikaenda Sweden, sasa wako Kenya. Then after Kenya there'll be like 9 more legs to go. It's going to be an interesting event because the rains are here with us, and one of the most significant upgrades in this year's WRC is we the cars lost hybrid, so we are no longer having Rally 1 hybrids. And also there is some few things that Kenyans need to learn about WRC. So WRC is the cars are categorized into 3 major categories. Kuna Rally 3, Rally 2 na Rally 1. So Rally 1 is mostly from the manufacturers. Zile gari ziko, they are built by the manufacturers like Hyundai, Toyota, Gazoo Racing, and M Sport Ford. So Rally 1 cars are just, they are very expensive to build, and that's why most of the time unapata they are brought to competition by manufacturers. Rally 2 is now cars that are a little bit cheaper compared to Rally 1 and a little bit less sophisticated. So in Rally 2 we have guys like akina Oliver Solberg wenye hawako Rally 1, and a few others for rally enthusiasts. But Rally 3 is where most of our Kenyan drivers occupy. So akina Karan Patel, no, Karan should be in Rally 2. But the upcoming drivers, most of them are in Rally 3. So our Kenyan drivers are in Rally 2 and Rally 3, WRC 2 and WRC 3. So sisi hatuko huko juu, hapana. But anyway, we will still cheer them on. Next week, we are going to be giving you updates about WRC, even explaining the jargon used like shakedown, like recce. There is also vitu kama service pit. Unajua wase wa F1 huku nje waachangi tupumue. Sasa hata sisi watu wa WRC hatutaacha mpumue this time round. Anyway, now turudi kwa mada ya leo, and I would like to start by saying hi to a few people before I introduce our guest. And who do we have? Leo, first on the list ni Achieng Frederick. I'm ready for Wednesday. Very ready for Wednesday. Interesting. Collins Tongoch kama kawaida, watching from Syokimau. Syokimau unajua kuna kuanga the land of extremes. Mnatoka kwa vumbi, mnaingia kwa black cotton mud. So Collins, I hope uko na mud terrain tires uko juu manze. Syokimau is a land of extremes. Kuna ka Australia. Now we also have Martin Kihara tuned in from Kismayu, Lower Jubaland. Wewe Martin hapo hapana, hapo Z. Reddington Expeditions tuned in from Nairobi. We have Stephen Ngware, unasema fimbo hapo kwa mlango ni nzuri. Fimbo ni mzuri. Fimbo ni very important. Na ile ingine ile inauzangwa na Masai. Wanaitanga aje ile panga yao. So as guys come online, I would like to introduce our guest today. You might have seen him before on Auto Konnekt. Na yeye anakuanga pale kwa watu yetu ya RoadCruza. You have seen we have made some trips with on RoadCruza Tyres. I'm sure you guys have seen them. Also, we did a very good episode with our guest today, and he explained the tires. But with the onset of the rains, I feel it's good we redo that. Now, kwa hii show, there are a few important things I would like us to really discuss. One of them is kitu inaitwa hydroplaning. Which tires are you using? Are they worn out? Do you have the right tread pattern on your vehicle? The second thing is the right vehicles for the right tires for the right vehicle. Then there is also the aspect of how much do tires contribute to failing gearboxes, increased fuel consumption, and even wearing out of suspension components. Before ni muintroduce, wacha nichukue salamu kadhaa. We have Junior Kagosing, Roy Rondani, Ondieki watching from Karen 1, Stop Arcade. Kevin, asante sana, karibu sana. We have loves from Bagadhi, Raila Raila Odinga we. Ati niwe sawa. Unajua nilisikia pia kungeenda venye ya kuenda ingekuwa hiyo barabara ingekuwa inaitwa Addis ya baba. Tuachane na siasa leo. Derek Tobiko, hi Wakabi, I saw you in a Wike Mark 2 kwa traffic towards Garden Estate on Sunday. Sasa mtu hawezi jificha. Anyway, karibu sana bwana Dickson.
Asante sana Eric.
Uko fiti?
Niko fiti sana.
By the way, we had a very nice episode with Mr. Dickson. In case you want to rewatch that episode, I'm going to put up a link in the description. You have a deep understanding on these tires. And there is something I do not know about Bona Dickson. Every time Bona Dickson is here, it rains. You are correlated aje. Sababu when we did that episode, it rained.
Yeah.
Karibu sana Bona Dickson.
Thanks a lot Eric.
2025.
It's here.
Tulikuwa na wewe 2024.
Yep.
And mvua imekuja, tushaanza kuona vituko. Flooding is here.
Yeah.
Na sasa our roads also, they are, I can say ziko na vitu mingi sana. But there are things that Kenyans don't really, we don't really consider. And I would like us to start this conversation by talking about something very, very important. Do tires expire?
Thanks Eric. Everything has an expiry date in the world. I think it's only stones that do not expire. But for tires, they do. Not really, we cannot say they expire, but what they do is they degrade over time. So once a tire has been exposed, especially to sun and the environment, it gets on degrading with time. So the way it was 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it will not be the same.
Okay. What happens when it degrades? Ni nini inapotea, and does it pose a risk to a motorist?
Yes, it does. What normally happens is that once the rubber is exposed, it starts to harden. At the moment the tire hardens, then that reliability of that tire goes down, because once it hardens, it's not able to have that resistance again on the road. When you're braking, you'll not be stopping, actually be skidding along. Again, also when you are also taking a corner, it will not be stable when you are driving actually that car. Yes.
Na sasa, now that it's good people are starting to hear about these things. Tunasemanga mguu kama bado iko na tread iko sawa. How do you get to know the expiry date of a tire?
Normally, you just need to check a few things. First, you need to check the manufacturer date of the tire. Is always on the sidewall of the tire. There are normally 4 digits on the sidewall, written like, for instance, today we are on week 11, on week 12 of 2025. So the tires which will be manufactured this week, they will be labeled 12/25. So you can tell when that tire was actually manufactured. Then normally it's always recommended, don't wear a tire that is more than 4 years from the date of manufacture, because most likely it will have already degraded if it has not been stored well, and poses a risk to you.
Okay.
Also, again, don't just look at the tread. You also need to look at also the sidewall. Sometimes you will find some small cracks on the sidewall. Tire imeparara, and you wonder what is happening. That means it's also a sign of actually hardening of that rubber, which is also poses a very big risk to the user.
Okay. Hiyo, at least now that is understood. Wase mnasikia, but you need to check out the expiry date of on your tires. But now that drives our conversation somewhere else. Mvua imekuja. You know how our highways are. We have people who don't see in the rain. Wale watu wa kuweka tint kwa kioo ya mbele hawasai hawaoni
Yeah,
hawaoni
sure.
anything.
Yeah.
And there is something about tires and braking distance. So when it starts to rain, we get to, this is when you get to know the health of your tire. Kunaanza kunyesha, gari inaanza kupata puncture asubuhi. There are so many cases sahi.
Yes.
Then there is also, if you have observed, especially during the weekends when it rains, there is a lot of rear ending kwa magari. Watu wanaongana tu nyuma. Now, if I'm driving on a wet road with a tire that does not have very good wet handling, there's a phenomenon called hydroplaning. And I remember you talking about it on the last episode we did. But do you have, like, if I'm driving, say if I'm driving a vehicle with a mud terrain tire and another one with a street tire or with a performance tire, where does the difference in saving you from hydroplaning come in? Because there are tires that we also hear they have a good drainage pattern. So what are the properties you would probably say for a tire that is good for a wet road, apart from kukua haijaisha trend? Yes.
So one also depends on the design of the tread pattern. The ones which are good for especially the wet roads more normally have like huge blocks. So at least they're able to give water away when you're on the road. Therefore, just like the principle of a boat. A boat floats just because it's flat, you know. The same thing when you have a smooth tire, like the ones that are used by the guys who are doing the drugs.
Yes.
Those tires, if you use them on a place which has even a 1 millimeter depth of water, you can actually be carried away by that water. You'll not be able to control the car with the tires. So normally what we do recommend is you need to check on the tread depth of your tires. That's the first thing you need to do. So if you find a tire, and there are different ways of actually checking the tread depth. All the tires normally have a groove along the tread, which once that groove is actually has flattened with the other part of the tread, then you know that tire inaenda. You need to get back to and call Highview and RoadCruza and make sure you get another tire. So that's one thing that you need to check. Secondly, also you also need to look at the roads that you're applying and the kind of the tire that you're using. For instance, we have seen people making fun. I don't know if you can remember a while back, a Patrol, a Nissan Patrol, a new one, a good one, are stuck in the middle of the mud. And you wonder how comes that such a powerful car stuck on the middle of the mud, just because of the choice of the tire that they take. The same thing on the wet roads, especially on tarmac. We have seen previously some of our roads actually getting retarmacked because of the smoothness and also the water that is on those roads. Yeah.
Now, okay, now that we have, at least we are getting, this conversation is going, it's getting home. Inaenda mahali nataka iende. Sasa there is also another thing, overfilling. Is it overinflating of tires? Overinflating of tires it has a negative effect both on the tire and even when it comes to kukinyesha.
Yes.
What are some of these effects of overfilling? Because when you go to a petrol station, and I don't know why this happens, wakiona uko na mud terrain ama all terrain, they'll assume that hii inataka 40 ama hii inataka 45.
Yeah.
There's that notion, but I think we need to have that conversation once more. What happens if you because I believe the tire pressure is also indicated on the sidewall of the tire.
Yeah.
The recommended tire pressure, unless you're going off-road when you need more traction and you una deflate kidogo. But what are the effects of overinflating?
One, First, I will also recommend people don't just look at the recommended PSI on the tire. Sometimes it's so much different. It depends on the car that you're driving. Different cars have different recommended PSI for different sizes of tires. Reason being, some cars are heavier than others. Some cars carry more load. So if a car is heavy, is carrying more load, most likely the recommended PSI will be higher. So that's something that you always need to check. However, every tire also has the maximum PSI that it's recommended for that tire, which if you overinflate beyond that, chances of that tire failing are quite high. Now, getting into the effects of overinflating. First, if you overinflate a tire, it kind of bulges at the center. So the contact of the tire and the road is reduced. So in terms of steering, that car will not be very comfortable because the part that is in contact with the road is now minimal. So what will happen is also that tire will wear out at the center because it has already bulged out. So the comfortability will not actually be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Dickson, wacha niingie hapa kwa comment section kidogo. And there are a few interesting questions. And by the way, guys, at the end of this show, we are going to have a Q&A on matters vehicles. But huku katikati unaweza uliza swali, especially about tires. And I would like to take a question. Vinisam is saying, currently riding on RoadCruza Tyres and I'm loving the experience. Asante sana. Huyu Davis Barrow, he's asking a very interesting question. Na hii swali imeulizwa mara mingi sana bwana Dickson. He's saying, explain those grooves in relation to aeroplane tires. Ushaiona hii tire ndege ni kama hata haina.
But also look at them. Depends on different planes.
Yes.
There are some which have actually a huge groove.
Yes.
There are others which are almost flat. I think it depends on the kind of airports and airstrips and the runways that aeroplane is expected to be landing. Yeah.
Because pia kuna zenye zina land kwa dirt runways and
roads, yes.
Yeah. So that is a good one. So UN car, this is from Martin Kihara. UN car tires are changed completely when one tire is worn out due to safety of the vehicle. Hiyo hapo kuna ukweli?
Normally what happens is that it's always recommended to always have tires with the same tread depth in each axle. Once, if you have one tire which has failed and then in one axle you only change the left one and then you leave the right one, they will not match because also that tread depth determines also the height, plays around with the height.
Yes.
And it also affects your comfortability and also the driving. So for the years changing for unajua ni wadosi pia.
Wakona kakitu.
Yeah, but normally it's recommended change. If one fails, it's recommended that actually if there's a huge difference in the tread depth, if it had weared out the other one, then please just put 2 new tires in each axle.
Okay. There's a guy by the name Dennis Katali, and I would like us to connect these 3 questions. Dennis Katali is asking how tires are stored correctly. And there is also Vinisam who is saying, kindly enlighten us about tire patterns. There is also another question I had seen here about somebody asking about tire rotation. And let's start by storing tires. You see, kuna watu sometimes unapata mtu ameenda amesafiri, amekaa like 2-3 weeks and they have left their cars maybe on the floor. Or umenunua miguu but you don't have a vehicle, unaweza ziweka immediately. So how do you correctly store tires?
One, if you're not using those tires, they should not be in direct contact with the sunlight because that accelerates the hardening. So wenye wanaweka kwa balcony, kama hauna space, weka kwa balcony lakini funikia. You'll actually save them. Normally the most effective way of storing a tire is on a dark room. Even the ones that normally are used in the aviation industry, they're normally stored in a dark room to make sure at least they minimize that degradation of that tire. Yeah.
So hapo kwa storage ni storing them in a dark room.
Yeah, but since we may not have afford one room to store tires, but make sure you don't store new tires outside where there's direct sunlight, or rather you can also maybe cover them.
You know, that aspect of storage is very important. I hear, you know, huku kwa part of our team tuko na Gen Z na nasikianga wakisema one of the biggest millennial problems is that millennials store everything kwa balcony. Wanaeka kila kitu, hata unapata bucket ilivunjika kitambo bado iko kwa balcony. So storing tires, I believe Nani might be Katali might be one of those people who store them on the balcony. The other thing is a very technical question. I have bought 2 tires. Part of the tires za gari yangu ziko worn out. Where do I place the new tires? Is it at the front or is it at the back?
This is actually a question that is always debated everywhere, and people have different opinions on where you should actually install the new tires.
Yes.
But depends on different theories. Though right now, most of the cars that you're driving on the road are front-wheel drive.
Yes.
So that means you as a driver, you can control the front axle with your steering. But can you control the back axle?
No.
You cannot. So you need your best tires in your front axle, in your back axle,
The rear
axle. You need your best tires there, because that means they'll have a good grip on the road. Let's say probably you are in a road which is a bit wet and you are skidding. You can control the front with your with your steering. So at least the rear axle, the RoadCruza tires with good grip will do the work for you.
They'll do the work.
Yeah.
So,
but normally what happens is that previously, a while ago, most of the cars used to be rear wheel. So a lot of traction was actually being pushed to the rear. So that's why most people normally used to put in the newer tires in the front. But locally here, what we normally do is to manage our budgets. Normally, the front wheels wear out faster because of turnings than the rear wheels. So mostly mtu anachapa budget, anaona hizi mpya wacha nidunge mbele before ziishe, hizi za nyuma zitakuwa zimenisukuma. Yes.
Okay.
That's still debatable. I know the other guys in the tires industry will argue about that until 2027.
There's also another very interesting argument about where do you place the tires. There is when tires are new, you know, for them to actually be very adhesive to the road, you have to run for a while. What we call breaking in.
Yeah.
So there's an argument from one of the, I can call him enthusiast, who a while back he used to write a column on the Daily Nation, and I found it to be a very interesting argument and a very valid argument that before tires break in, they are ukikanyaga brakes zina, they are not as sticky to the ground as they should.
Yeah.
So when you put them at the front, where there is more braking power, where like the braking, like 90% of the braking is at the front. So they would actually pose a risk when they are too new before they break in to your car's stopping distance. So do you think that to me made sense in a way when you come to the braking aspect?
Yeah, that is very much valid. Though now breaking in takes quite a short time. Yeah, just like the way you see guys in F1 trying to heat up their tires,
Yes,
just to make sure they are in good condition. The same way, but that one also makes good sense, and it's all about actually degradation of the tire. Because once the tire comes from the factory, from the manufacturer, before it gets to us, probably it has taken maybe 2, 3 months, 4 months. So if that tire was not wrapped, that means some part of it has started already degrading. It has had to harden a bit. So the moment it scratches, at least now you can get a good grip from that rubber.
Okay, so is that the reason why when tires zinakuja kwa duka zinakuanga wrapped?
That's one way of preserving them, actually. Yes.
Nice,
But also
nice.
it's a cost, to us.
But
Yeah.
it's a good way of, at
Yeah,
least you get.
you are able to actually preserve that tire well,
Yes.
when you wrap it.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you look at especially road cruiser wrapping, those of you who have purchased road cruiser, it's one of the best wrapped tires in the market.
Kwanza hiyo green
Yeah, the green.
ilikuwa mzuri sana.
Yes, yes.
The other thing that I would like, okay, kuna jamaa aitwa Tycoon 001, but before tuende kwa swali ya Tycoon 001, that question kuna hatujamaliza kuiansa, talking about tire rotation. When we went to when you are tulikuwa tunaelezwa mambo ya magari, we were told that tire rotation is dependent on whether the car is front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive or four wheel drive. And I remember us being told, so if a car is 4x4 four wheel drive, that tires unafaa kuzi full time four wheel drive, you're supposed to rotate them rear to front, front to rear, venye tu ziko. Kama ni all wheel drive, cross cross. Kama ni rear wheel drive, venye ziko lakini cross. Na kama ni front wheel drive, zilikuwa wanasema zikuje hivyo ziko, then you cross the others. It's actually tire rotation is another subject that is very debatable. So how often should somebody rotate the tires?
It's always recommended you rotate your tires after one service, or maximum 2 service. Yeah. When you make it a habit to rotate your tires when you're doing your service, it's easier for you to remember. Yeah, so if you do your service maybe after 5,000 kilometers, then maybe probably you can rotate them after 2 service, 10,000. If you do at 8,000, please rotate them when you're doing your service. This is actually supposed to be done also to ensure that all your tires are wearing out the same way.
Evenly.
Yes. Evenly, yes.
I think, and now that you're talking about tires wearing out evenly, what causes uneven tire wear on cars? What are the factors zinafanya kama sasa unasikia mtu anasema gari inakula mguu ndani, inakula mguu nje, ama inakula katikati, ama inakula kwa edges?
Yeah. So there's an array of factors that causes that. One is alignment. If your wheels are not well aligned, of course, if they have a negative or positive cable, they will actually eat out your tires and the sides of your tires. Two is the inflation. If you inflate them correctly, you are safe. If you do not inflate your car to the recommended PSI, let's say you underinflate, so the shoulders will actually wear out more. If you overinflate, the middle part will also wear out more. The others also is the suspension parts, if they are okay, if they are worn out. Also, that one also affects the way the tires are actually wearing out. And also your driving style. Yes.
You're sana driving style.
Yeah.
People don't, there are people who do not follow it very, very, very keenly, especially driving habits. And driving habits, unfortunately, they are the cause for so many things.
True.
In the car. I would like us to shift direction. Being a tire expert, somebody asked about the tire patterns here. As road cruiser, which are the tire patterns, the tread patterns that you are offering for the Kenyan market? Amesema anaweza taka take through the tread patterns. Yeah.
So for us in road cruiser, we have different tire patterns. I would first categorize them into 3. One, there's highway patterns. The highway patterns are the ones that you can use well on the tarmac if you are all tarmac person. Probably if you are those people who prefer a very quiet ride and drive, and you are not very aggressive on the road, there is the highway pattern. We also have the all-terrain patterns, which are 50-50. If you do on-road, if you go sometimes to off-road terrains, that one can serve you well. And also we have now the mud terrain. For those people who actually, like now it has rained, and you have guys whom will be saying, oh, barabara ya kwetu ni mbaya, ni shamba. Then you get the mud terrain. You'll not complain about the road. You'll actually enjoy the drive.
Hao ni wale walisema hawatakula barabara.
Yeah. Also now it depends on the highway pattern. We have different patterns.
Yes.
For the highway pattern, we have different tread codes. Like for instance, we have an RA 510, which is very, very famous here in Kenya for the highway pattern. We have also RA 610, RA 710 for the ultra high performance tires, RA 4100 for the SUVs pattern. All those ones are for highway patterns. Then for the all-terrain, we have one of the most popular road cruiser tire patterns, which is RA 1100. And actually, everyone thinks that road cruiser only have an all-terrain tire. And anyone asking for a quotation, they always tell you, usinipate ile ameno kubwa. Yeah, road cruiser have highway pattern, all-terrain, and mud terrain.
Okay.
So RA 1100 is very, very, very popular for us here in Kenya. And also we have RA 7000, which you have introduced. That's an all-terrain also.
Yes.
You have introduced recently. And then on the other end of mud terrain, we have RA 3200 and RA 8000.
Okay.
Guys, you can Google those ones.
Actually, there is a whole episode. Wanafaa rewatch.
They need to check that episode.
I'll do a link hapa.
Exactly.
Now, Bwana Dickson, hapa kuna maswali tatanishi. One of them is from a gentleman by the name Edward Muchekehu, and he's asking, najua hiyo jina nimejua ni huko kwetu, ni ya watu wa mlima, lakini najua ikiandikwa hivi you might think it's a Ugandan name, but I believe hiyo jina ni Muchekehu. That's the correct pronunciation. So he's asking, which is the better tire between radio tire, which have wires, and the others that have strings?
So radio tires are the better tires when actually when you are driving on the roads, on the speeds that we are currently doing on our roads. Normally the tire build can be radio. That's why you find a tire has an R. If it's size 185 70 14, you see there's an 185/70 R14. Most people think that R stands for the rim.
It
doesn't. Or radius, yes. It actually stands for the mode of make of that tire, which is radio. Radio tires are made with actually now the wires. Yeah, they're more stronger. Two, also, in terms of balancing, they are well balanced when you're driving on the road. For the other ones, they're like what he's saying, what used to be Yana. Previously, in the 80s, 90s, the technology that was being used then was actually making the bias tires, which use actually the hands. So what happens with those tires? They are equally long-lasting, but they do not balance. Yeah. So you'll find that a guy driving in front of you and the tire is actually wobbling, especially when it heats up. For the radio tire, even if it heats up, it's able to maintain its structure even when it heats up.
Okay. Yeah. Very good answer.
And right now, actually, rarely will you get easy za Uzi. Rarely will you get them now. Yeah. Unless now for the heavy commercial, the trucks, mostly the tires, the trucks and the heavy commercial that put in tubes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Another question here. Achieng Frederick, he's asking, when I follow my car's recommended pressure using AT tires, the pressure appears so low. Should I follow the car's recommended pressure or the AT recommended pressure?
No, you're supposed to follow the recommended pressure by the car manufacturer. Yes, that's what you're supposed to follow. Sometimes if you, because of the car modifications that you normally do, it's always, sometimes you can be recommended to, if the manufacturer's recommended PSI is 35, and if you see like it's low, because probably you're also carrying load and all that, then you can increase maybe with 2 or 3 PSI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kwa hii, by the way, I'm loving the questions that are coming because they really resonate with us. There is Promac Creations, and they're asking, hello Okabi, can I have different sizes on the front and a different one at the back?
Yes, you can. There's no problem with that, provided you just need to be very cautious. You should not have different sizes on the same axle. If you have different sizes on the same axle, then that's disaster. Yeah, but provided on the same axle you have the same size, you're safe to go.
Yeah, and plus some of the models we are having these days, like the Mercedes
Like the
Benz, the
Mercedes, the BMW,
BMWs,
yeah.
they have different tire sizes
Yes,
on the
yes,
rear
yes.
and at the front. Wacha nitafute ingine hapa. There is who is naona Kandi Wangoi pale anachangia vizuri sana. Anasema that's a good way to remember to rotate every second service. Thank you for that. Then there is also another. Bobby Mugambi is asking, hii kelele taya hutoa gari ikiwa kwa speed inaletangwa na nini? I once used my boss car and the noise was scary and unbearable.
So that is actually caused by the tire, the tire pattern. If you have aggressive tires, the ones which have deep tread depth, of course they will make that noise when you're on high speeds and on the road, but it's not that big.
It's, yeah, and also I think he also needs to be on the watch out for bearings.
Yes, also.
Inaweza kuwa ni bearing inapiga kelele na unasema ni
Then you're saying the
ni
tire.
tire.
But also normally what happens is, especially when you're driving along a wall, any noise that comes from any part of your moving parts,
Yes.
moving car parts, will actually be kind of amplified. So sometimes people wonder what's happening, like especially when you drive along the express highway, the noise is quite actually amplified because of those cabs.
Oh, and na hiyo ukuta.
Yeah, hiyo ukuta.
There is a question by a guy named Tycoon 001, and I think this is a question that most Kenyans, tunaonanga Wakenya wengi sana wakifanya hii makosa. Does it make sense to install performance tires like Zestino kwa ordinary car yenye hata siyo ya sports? I think that is wastage.
No, sometimes you have to treat your car.
Like,
it's good to treat your car, but you are not maximizing the use of that tire. Yeah, so it is just like when you buy a car which has a speedometer all the way to 320 and you barely hit 80.
You're underutilizing the car.
You're underutilizing the car. Yes.
And also
but it doesn't have any effect on the performance, but of course it will have some effect on your pocket.
Oh, definitely. But what about now? Because he's going down a rabbit hole. There are people who use mud terrain tires and they are primarily in town. What effect do all terrain and mud terrain tires have on fuel consumption and why?
Well, for the all terrain and the mud terrain, they have a negative effect on your fuel economy, but slightly. It's something that you can only be able to realize it if you cover in thousands of kilometers. What happens is that they also have more resistance on the road, and that is what gives you more traction when you go to uneven roads. So that is why at least the fuel consumption will go slightly higher, but sometimes it's not something that you can actually recognize. However, these tires also give you that aggressive look, and just like the same way, when guys import cars, the first thing they do, they normally go and look for the alloy rims. Why? it doesn't affect the performance, but it affects the looks. So these aggressive MTs and 80s, they normally give a very nice look to your car. Yeah.
So mtu kama hamind, unajua kama mtu anataka kupiga luku,
Chapa hiyo
chapa
MT itakuwa sawa. But then again also, you know, for us, we play sometimes between the city and the upcountry and the reserve and all those places. You never know. When you have an all-terrain tire or a mud-terrain tire, you are safer than the other person.
Because even the sidewalls of the all-terrains and the mud-terrains
they are more reinforced.
They are more reinforced.
Yes, they are more reinforced.
So they give you you are an edge higher in terms of safety.
Not like the highway patterns. The highway patterns, especially ugonge pothole, imeraruka. But the mud terrains and the all terrains, most of them are reinforced on their shoulders and the sidewall. So even if you have a huge impact, they can still withstand that.
I remember when we went to Burundi with the Suzuki.
Yeah.
The roads in Burundi are very bad. Na kama ingekuwa na highway pattern, ile alafu unajua ni usiku unaenda unagonga shimo.
Yeah.
And funny enough, you find the tire holding up. So that's actually something I've experienced. And yeah, so if you're thinking long term, na pia kama una gari, you know, if you're looking for a versatile vehicle, I see most people who are like operating matatus. Most of them will opt for some all-terrains, especially at the back. I think it's also even the time it takes for them to wear is slightly longer.
Yes. It takes longer for them to wear out. Also, again, they give that look, the aesthetics. And then again, also, you know, like for the Kenyan matatus, they are racing against time.
Yes.
So you'll get them going up the curb sometimes, through the potholes and all that. So at least that tire gives them more reliability. Yes.
Hawataki itaenda unapigiwa unaambiwa imekata.
Unaambiwa anza kurudishia abiria
pesa. Yes. There's also Eric Angode is asking, do all-terrain tires mean better braking?
Not really. Yeah. All-terrain tires do not mean better braking. So when you need better braking, and that's why you see the guys who are in the drag and racing, they normally go for tires with very, very, very minimal treads. Yeah, because that means you have more contact
with the ground.
on the ground.
The slicks and semi-slicks.
Yes.
Na sasa by the way I say just to nani anasema he Bobby Mugambi is saying hii lazima niulize hata kama ni vita mnipige leo. This pro cyclist alikuwa anatuuzia uoga saying that bicycle wheel takes a lot of PSI compared to a normal car wheel. Does it make sense? Najua ya nduthi ndio inakuwa PSI mingi kuhinda ya gari.
Now actually for the cyclist, especially the road bikes, you see zile tu bikes tunakuanga na kadogo hivi, that actually takes more PSI than even a car. They go even up to 80 PSI. So the PSI, okay, ataki kusoma physics, lakini PSI is not relevant to it is not relative to the size of the tire.
Actually, that is something that many people don't know.
Yeah. But the normal mountain bike, normally you inflate up to around 45-50 PSI.
Yes.
For our normal cars, daily use car, most of them are actually at 35 PSI.
35?
Yes.
Sawa. So now there is also there's a guy by the name Mwego. He's saying, "Hi Eric, who calibrate the pressure machine at the petrol station because they give different PSI? Hope we have a body that covers that." But I think calibration is an issue in Kenya. Calibration is an issue everywhere.
Yeah. There we agree. At times you'll find also because of different manufacturers and different usage and also wearing out, there's a difference sometimes in the calibration. And most of the times, you know, kitambo, the cabs people used to kuzunguka. You remember that kalatiri ya kuweka mawe ya kupima sukari? They had to come at least and check if kama yako
inapima
kama yako iko 1 kg ama iko half a kg.
Yes.
Yeah, that is an issue. But most of them you'll find they do not vary a lot. It's maybe with plus or minus 1 psi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a guy okay. Kuna jamaa anaitwa Gleck Holdings na amekuuliza swali mzuri sana. What makes RoadCruza tires stand out in terms of durability and performance compared to other tire brands in the same category? Then Wakabi, on the Majesta na imezea mate sana. Is it an LC200 sedan? Wacha tuanze na bwana Dickson.
What makes RoadCruza unique first is the kind of rubber that has been used. It has more natural rubber. Secondly, the kind of handling that the factory does with that. They have also a very modern machineries in the production. Again, also the test department and quality department is very keen with each and every tire that gets out of that factory. So we have seen us having a very constant quality all through the years that we have been selling RoadCruza locally.
Okay. Haya, wacha nimuulize hii nini so hii nimjibu hii swali ya pili. The Crown Majesta. The Majesta is the top trim of the Crown, and I think these days it's not even, we can't call it a Crown. Sasa imegraduate, it's a model by itself. Majesta, it's hiyo ni zile gari luxury za Japan. Big engine, but very comfortable and also very reliable. Ukiona mtu ameua Majesta, huyo hata ndoa hawezi weka. So that's the answer I can give. Then there is also another question by Identity Rides. Wewe umechelewa. Identity Rides umechelewa sana. Then umechelewa tumeongea kuhusu hii maneno ya storage. Tumesema uende kwa taya uangalie ilitengenezwa wiki gani ya mwaka, and then from there ujue how long it has been in that store. Martin Kihara is saying, how can someone know to put okay. Martin Kihara sijaelewa hii swali vizuri. Hiyo swali sijaelewa, lakini Identity Rides anauliza swali very controversial. And I also I've asked an officer that question. Na akasema niko na kiburi before. Asking for Kenyans on the road, which calibration do Kenyan askari use to decide whether your tire is worn out? You know, ideally they should use it's called a macrometer.
Yes.
But sasa wanapimanga na macho.
Normally that's what they do. Wanapima na macho na pia wanaangalia driver. But there's in the tread grooves,
yes,
there's always a bar there, which once it's not flat with the other tread grooves,
yes,
then you still have some at least mileage to cover. Also you can use a coin, maana kama ile ya Moi. Ukiweka, if you put coin and the picture that frame it gets, you can see it, then no,
imeisha. Okay. Yes. So at least unajua umepatia askari mbinu nyingine ya kupima. The other thing
but sometimes also it's good to give caution. At times we see like askari anaonea. But you see, most of these accidents sometimes we find on the road, the minor ones are caused by the braking.
Yes.
Tires getting worn out, tires have degraded. So at times I would naweza tetea kidogo the cops, they are also looking at your welfare. And also instead of you getting flagged down by the cop, na unajua lazima utaenda ndani ukule cash bill ya 5k ama uongee na yeye vizuri, that is, instead of you going all through that hassle, just replace your tires.
Weka tu tires.
Hizo zingine zenye hazijaisha kabisa, pelekea watoto nyumbani wacheze nazo.
And by the just to put it in perspective, I also feel that RoadCruza occupies a very interesting niche in the market, balancing between quality and also affordability.
Yes.
Because the tires are priced very well. Actually, I don't think people have an excuse kutembea na gari imeisha.
True.
Na kuna mtu amesema umpatie dealership ya UG kwa Uganda.
Tunakuja.
Nimeona amesema hivyo hapa.
Kwa Museveni.
Kwa Museveni. Bobby Mugambi, low profile tires ndio mbaya on our Kenyan roads ama shida ni rim zetu fake?
No. The low profile tires, they are normally meant for performance. Secondly, they also give you that slick look. Gari nayo inajipa hapo. But now the challenge is this. If you hit a pothole with a low profile tire, it doesn't have enough profile to cushion your rims from the ground. So if you hit a pothole or if you hit a rail, what will happen is that the ground will actually get into contact with your rim, and with the weight it will have to crack, and once it cracks, normally that tire will also be torn along that part, all in a fura. Ndio maana ukiangalia most of those people who have low profile tires inakwanga imefura kando. That is actually out of the impact. So when you're driving a low profile tire, you need to be very, very careful, especially when you're riding through roads which have potholes and curbs and all that.
Yes. Yeah. Now, Wase, we have had some very insightful, comments and also some lessons from Bwana Dickson. But I want to open, as we wind up, I want to give you guys some time kuuliza maswali, Q&A. You can ask questions, any question, whether tires, whether cars. Unaweza uliza hiyo swali hapa on this particular segment as we wind up. The other thing I would like to remind you is that we normally hold our Wednesday night live shows at Grande Motor Imports. And just to remind you one thing, Grande Motor Imports, they're offering a 16-month warranty on hybrid cars. Yes, so kama unataka kuimport hybrid, and not all hybrid, by the way, ni Toyota pekee. Mtauliza Tom ni kwa nini ni Toyota pekee, mimi sijui. but I think that's a discussion to have with Tom. The other thing is, on one of our quests to serve you and to bring services near you, we are launching our new service center in Eldoret. Hii ndio tunaita Neon Mobility. And there's even a website for Neon Mobility, so you can just log on to neonmobility.co.ke. Tuko pale Eldoret, mahali kunaitwa Sociani hapo. And we are doing some trials. So if you're in Eldoret, you can bring your car for our service trials to try and determine how much time are we using to service a vehicle. We want to have data so that once we are booking those appointments, we know where gari ya fulani, gari ya Collins Tongochi inakaa hapa dakika ngapi. So you can join us, and part of the benefits to joining us for the service trials is that you're getting free labor from Neon Mobility. So you can bring in your car anytime from tomorrow, Friday, Saturday and Monday next week. Na ukileta gari yako Friday, tutapatana nawe hapo, tupige gari yako, tuione, tupige tu a very good inspection. Also, pre-purchase inspections in the region of Eldoret. You can take your vehicles to Neon Mobility. Tuko pamoja watu wa Eldoret. Tuko pamoja kabisa. Anyway, maswali ziko wapi? Hizi maswali ziko wapi? There is Eric Agonde asking, Wing Road Y11 first gen, is it a good buy in terms of reliability and consumption? So Eric, one thing about these Y11s is that they were quite reliable. They were not bad as their siblings, and they were quite hardy as well. The biggest advantage you can get with a Y11 is the price, because hizi gari zinauzwa kama mkate. Ni gari unaweza lipia na M-Pesa and it will still serve you very, 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 very well. So swali zingine ziko wapi? ITEL writers anauliza, watu wa low profile Kasarani kuna bump. Let me read it. Watu wa low profile Kasarani kuna bump iko barabara ya Seasons. Wanaichukia sana. Kwanza, but Kasarani alafu uweke Seasons in the same sentence. I think hii lazima Dickson akuwa anaijua ni gani.
That one, I think I know it. Hapo custom ilapo ukipanda.
Watu wa low profile hawaipendi. Okay, Gleg Holding. Since the Crown Majesta shares an engine with the LC200, does it make sense to swipe it with a 4GR Crown engine? That's too much work. Unajua, why would you need to swap that engine? Hiyo ni gari ya kama unasikia kuweka mafuta kwa hiyo gari ni shida, then hiyo gari si ya ligi yako. So you'd rather buy the kawaida Crown instead of just, because you will have to swap the engine, the gearbox and the diff. That's too much work. Sasa Munene Mike is saying, hey Wakabi, a Makex GS 216 sunroof sahi na 2.7 inaweza. Hiyo ni swali inaweza ulizwa Tom wa Grande Motor Imports. But the good thing about the 28 Makex, zinakuja zikiwa RDS. They're actually quite nice for Makex and Makex lovers. Ziko fiti. Getting a sunroof on a Makex is not an easy task, but ziko. So maybe Munene, you can drop us a message. Ile namba yetu 0710 844 863. Drop us a message. We'll be able to address that and give you a good answer on that. Bobby Mugambi anauliza, hii watu wakikataa kuuliza mimi nitauliza, kuweka mguu dawa, is it advisable? Sana sana mguu ya mbele. Na dawa ni nini Dickson? Dawa ni nini?
Normally there's a sealant that people call dawa in the local market. It has some chippings,
yes,
and then glue-like solution, which you put on the tire to seal those pinholes and small holes.
Yes.
What normally happens is that you do this just as a repair, a temporary measure. But some people actually put it, as a precautionary. So that means there'll be a liquid inside that tire. So that tire will keep on wobbling. If you try to balance that tire, you are not able to actually balance the tire. Just go and try out. There are those guys who fit tires on the roadside, and they use water and all that stuff. If that guy uses if that guy actually pours water inside your tire, you'll have a big problem. You'll actually quarrel with your mechanic, because you'll always be saying he gari in a wobble, the steering is shaking, but and that's why you see he's talking about the front tire. If you put it on the back, you'll not feel it, but actually the tire will still be wobbling. So you should just use dawa as a precautionary when you, or not a precautionary, as a solution, maybe probably when you have some punctures. But also we have better dawas. Like for instance, with Highview also, we have Flamingo. We have a Flamingo tire sealant and inflatable. It's very light, so it doesn't give you that liquid inside there. Yes.
Okay. So umesikia, Promax Studios anasema Q&A, my 1.8 liter filter gives me 7 kilometers per liter with AC on and 7.4 with AC off. Is it normal? And if it's not, is it a reversible thing or is it old age? That is very bad fuel economy for 1.8 liter. I think there must be something. There must be something wrong somewhere. And also, do not trust these meters zenye gari inakuanga nazo za kupatia the fuel consumption. Sometimes they lie a lot. Zinadanganya sana. So the best way, I always tell you guys, the best way to measure fuel economy is fill up, weka zero pale kwa nini, kwa the trip meter, tembea. Once unafika kwa petrol station ingine, fill up, angalia the difference and then look at the distance, then you can be able to measure how many kilometers to the liter. Because if you use these trip meters, sometimes they give you erratic readings, so do not believe them. Usiziamini sana, sawa. So let's just do it the old school way. But if that fuel economy is anything to go by, that something is terribly wrong somewhere, and you should take your vehicle in for diagnosis. Jude Kathoka is asking, nafikiria kuchukua Makex 2006 for locally used as my first car. Would you recommend it? GRX 120s were really not bad. They were very reliable. Shida yake tu, they have a drinking problem. So if you don't mind your dent, especially this is the the four-wheel drive Mark X, enthusiasts wako wanazipenda sana, and that's why they are very cheap. You know, when you're looking for a Mark X, you want that raw rear wheel drive power. Na hiyo ndio part of the reasons why guys would want a Toyota Mark X. Well, naona masaa muda umetupa kisogo na sioni maswali ingine ya Q&A. So let me see if let me look for another question hapa, in case we missed one. Okay. What causes okay. Sawa, sioni any. Kuna swali ingine imekuja. Sawa, kama kuna swali ingine, I think we can call it.
Maybe just before we call it an evening.
Yes.
There's also something which someone asked me. Most of the all-terrain tires and the mud-terrain tires, they have an M+S on the sidewall and a snowflakes sign on the sidewall. And there was someone who had featured about tires and talked about winter tires and the other normal tires, and say that all these tires you have for all terrain are actually winter tires. So I would like to clarify that they are actually not very recommended for the winter. They can serve slightly for the winter, but they are not very recommended for the winter. When you find a tire which has an M+S sign on the sidewall, it simply means it's good for muddy and snow. Yeah, and all the all-terrain tires and mud-terrain tires that you'll find, all of them are okay with muddy conditions and also snow. Yeah, but there's a specific winter tire.
Yeah, the ones in zinakuja na snow tires.
Yes, with those sipes.
Yeah. Okay. And then maybe before tufunge kabisa, what would you tell somebody who imports a vehicle that has snow tires and continues to use it on Kenyan roads? Is it a safety hazard?
Yes, it is. Normally, the winter tire is made in a way that the rubber are extremely soft and they will not harden at the extreme low temperatures. So when you expose them now to the summer, what will happen is that those tires will harden very quickly. They will not wear out. So you'll be looking at the tread and seeing, bado nikona, askari hazi nishika. Yes, hata kushika lakini you ram to the rear of another car because they will harden, so the braking distance now is longer.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always recommended if they come in with a winter tire, just immediately change and buy the other normal tires.
Okay.
For your precaution.
Sawa. Yeah. So guys, I think this has been a very good episode with Mr. Dickson. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, and I'm sure tutafanya zingine. There is a lot that we did not exhaust. I'm sure we are going to exhaust those questions through maybe short form content and even another episode that we can discuss tires even more. If you want to buy RoadCruza tires, I have them on my vehicle, ile Trooper, and I've had them on my Suzuki. They're actually good tires. They are tires I can really vouch for. So in case you're an adventure junkie, the mud terrains and the all terrains will get you there. In case you are a performance junkie, pia wako na zile performance tires. They also have highway tires that are tuned towards comfort. So hapo kwa description there is a number that I'll give that you can call in case you need a quotation or in case you need to buy RoadCruza tires. So I hope this has been an insightful episode. Na remember that Konnekt Live comes to you every Wednesday night. Sawa. Tuko pamoja, and I hope see you on Wednesday. On Monday we still have our usual episode, and by the way, if you have not watched our last Monday's episode about some cars that Kenyans are avoiding, you can watch it pia hapa kwa channel. Na pia if you really need some more detailed information about the conversation you have just had on tires, I'll put up a link in the description so that you can watch an up close and candid episode on different tire patterns and their use as well. So thank you so much, and do have yourself a lovely night.